Howdy, and welcome to episode 17 of T-Shirts and Shawls. I'm Karen, and today is Thursday, December 29th, 2016. And I must say, I am really happy that 2016 is almost at an end because there have been some really rotten things that have happened this year. Some really great things have happened this year, but also some really rotten things, both personally, obviously, the cats, and then just in the larger world, especially with all the deaths. So, kind of trying to think of happier new year. So, kind of looking ahead and hoping that 2017 is going to be a better year in many ways, even with challenges that I know will be faced. But let's go ahead and finish off the final podcast episode of 2016. So for today's shirt, I am wearing a shirt that simply says, I love Star Wars, mostly because, unfortunately, 2016 took Carrie Fisher, and that is definitely a hard death. I do love Star Wars. I am a Star Wars fan, although my husband is definitely much bigger Star Wars fan than I can claim to be. And he and I named our son Luke, not because of Luke Skywalker, but I will say that it's definitely a perk. We really did just like the name. It took us a long time to come up with the name. But if you ask my son, sometimes he will say that his name is Luke Skywalker. So he definitely is a Star Wars fan from an early age. And he even, when he tells the story of the movies, he actually tells it in first person, as if he is actually Luke Skywalker. So it's really interesting to hear him tell the story. I don't know if he doesn't quite understand that there are multiple people in the world named Luke, or if he truly thinks that because they share the same name, they are the same person. Not really sure. But Star Wars is definitely a big part of our day-to-day lives. So I'm also wearing this cardigan that my sister got me for Christmas, so a little bit of Doctor Who-ness, and I think I'm going to kind of turn so you can see, maybe just sit up a little bit, so you can see more of the cardigan. So there's the Doctor Who logo down here at the bottom, and up at the top there are figures. So this is I love this cardigan. I'm very happy that I got it, which is one reason I wanted to share it. So it's not a t-shirt, but I wanted to share it in this segment because it's really soft, it's comfy and cozy. I actually don't need to wear it right now because the weather is not very cold here. Just the t-shirt would be fine. But I wanted to show it off, especially because my sister apparently went through a lot of trouble to get this cardigan. If I remember right, I believe it was at, oh gosh, the name of the store is escaping me right now. It's one of those stores where you can find these types of clothing items. If it pops into my head, I will link to it in the show notes, or maybe put it below the screen. Anyway, but she was able to find it online, but not in the store. So she ordered it online to arrive in the store. I think that was like the only option that she was able to do. And she had to kind of chase things down in order to find it. And I think it arrived in the store like 2 days before we had our gift exchange. So she said this was the gift that was kind of the most stressful of the gifts that she got because it was really hard to track down. But I'm very thankful that she went through that trouble because I really, really love it. Yeah, I wanted to share that with you. So because I'm wearing the cardigan today and because the weather is not cold here in Texas, I decided that I didn't want to add on a shawl on top of this, so I'm going to talk about a shawl that I no longer own, so that I only have pictures to show you. And the one I picked is called the Wood Peddler's Shawl. The designer is Cheryl Oberly, and I will link to the pattern in the show notes. And I picked this shawl because it's one of those that I sold, that I let go of, that, and once again, I kind of wish I hadn't. It would be nice if I still had this shawl, but that's okay. I guess at some point, if I really, really wanted to, I could make it again. But anyway, so I knit this shawl in 2010. Started it in February and finished it in June. And the yarn that I used is a yarn that was 100% soy silk. So it was definitely a new experience knitting with that yarn. And I actually have a little bit on my Ravelry page that I mentioned about the yarn. And it says, the soy silk yarn was really interesting. I love the drape of the yarn. It doesn't even seem at all like it needs blocking. And I remember that I really didn't block the shawl because it just came off the needles and the lace looked really great. And the shaping was nice. It's a triangular shawl, which I'll show you the picture in just a minute. So the soy silk didn't need blocking. I said, but doing things like weaving in ends made me feel like the yarn isn't very secure because it slips around a lot and doesn't have a lot of grip. And I remember also there was this cottony, I think it was a cotton linen, so Knit Picks Cotton yarn that I had made a scarf for one of my friends way back when I was first starting to knit. And I remember also that yarn was really slippery, and when I was weaving in the ends, it just really didn't feel very secure. And with that scarf, I actually took a little bit of a fabric glue and glued down the final end when I snipped it. And unfortunately, it left kind of a little hard part there, but I felt like the end was at least a little more secure. I did not do that with this shawl. But anyway, so I actually had some modeled shots. They're a little bit blurry because I did one of those things where you do the timer on your camera and then run over in front of the camera and take the picture. So this, okay, let me try to get rid of glare. So it's this green soy silk and a triangular shaped shawl that had kind of a solid body, and then get to the next picture. A solid body and then a kind of a lace border on the edge. So I think, here we go, this picture you can kind of see, maybe you can see the lace border a little bit better. I'm going to, excuse me for just a second, I'm going to turn the camera a little bit, kind of angle it so that maybe I won't catch the light quite as much. Maybe that's a little bit better. Oh, that's one of the in progress pictures of the body. Apparently my iPad decided to jump there. Let me go back to the picture I was at. There we go. Now the glare looks even worse. So there you go. There's kind of the lacy stitch pattern. It's kind of a triangular or scalloped maybe shape there. And I think I have a close-up. Here we go. Here's a close-up. Come on, open the picture. Close-up of the stitch pattern. So I remember it was really fun to knit, and like I said, I do wish that I had kept it, but unfortunately I no longer have it, so I only have the pictures to show. But that's the shawl that I wanted to share with you guys today. It is almost the end of the Q4 knit along. So depending on when you're watching this, if you are watching this before the end of 2016 and you have participated in the Q4 knit along, any shawl inspired by fandom, make sure that you post in the FO thread basically by midnight of December 31st, because on January 1st I will be drawing the prize winner out of the FO thread. And if you remember, the winner gets this beautiful hitchhiker sock yarn from Panorama Fiber. This is in the, where's the colorway name? Warp Speed colorway. So really pretty, love it. So someone in the FO thread randomly selected will win that yarn. Make sure you've posted there if you have an FO. And we have also nominated and voted for the theme for the Q1 of 2017 knit along. So first quarter 2017, which will start January 1st and run through the end of March. And we had some great nominations. If you go to the T-Shirts and Shawls podcast group on Ravelry, you can see the nominations. But the voting, it seemed like there were two of the nominations that were most popular, and for a while they were tied neck and neck, and one of them has pulled out ahead by one vote, and that is the winner. So you can probably see this a lot better if you go to Ravelry. But there you go, there is the voting. And so the one that got almost enough votes was shawls that use 2 or more colorways. So a lot of the shawls that are either stripes or use a different border color or something like that. Almost won, but not quite. The winning theme is a shawl from a pattern you've had in your queue or favorites for at least a year and haven't made yet. So, so that is officially now the theme of the first quarter of 2017. So any shawl that you have had in your queue for or favorites for more than a year and haven't yet made. So kind of getting some of those patterns that you've been saving. And somebody asked a question of, well, what if you maybe haven't been knitting for a year and you don't have any shawl patterns that have been in your queue or favorites for more than a year? So if you either are a person who does not save things in the queue or favorites, or you for some reason don't have any shawls in the queues in your queue or favorites, or if you are a newer knitter and therefore just haven't had time to have a queue or favorites for at least a year, then the rule for you is any shawl pattern that has been published over a year ago. So basically, since the knit along starts on January 1st, 2017, any shawl pattern that was published before January 1st, 2016. So anything published in 2015 and further back. So you can go by the published date on Ravelry if you are unsure about when a particular pattern was published. So if you have shawls in your favorites or queue, look for ones that have been there for at least a year. If you don't have any shawls in your favorites or queue, then pick a shawl pattern that was published over a year ago. So that is the theme. And I went ahead and took a look through my queue. I didn't even get to my favorites because there were several shawl patterns in my queue that have been there for over a year. And my queue is actually fairly narrowed down. Sorry, I'm looking at my queue right now. My queue is actually fairly narrowed down and I don't have a lot of things on there anymore. I now use my favorites to save, you know, all the patterns I may one day want to knit. And my queue is supposed to be for patterns that I want to knit right away. Right away. Yeah. The pattern I've picked, I queued January 3rd, 2013. So when the quarter starts, it'll have been in my queue for almost exactly 4 years. So I think that will definitely meet the theme. It is the Elizabeth Shawl by D. O'Keefe. So there you go. Elizabeth Shawl, and you can see how long it has been queued. So if you're not sure in your queue how to tell how long it's been in your queue, just underneath the picture, it actually says queued and then the date that you queued it. So that way you can see when that pattern was added. So I think one of the reasons that I have not knit this shawl is because it calls for lace weight yarn, and I don't do a lot of knitting with lace weight. I love knitting with fingering weight, but I really haven't done lace weight very much. But I did actually pick a yarn even back in 2013, maybe not 2013, but I don't know, maybe it's been in my stash for that long. I did actually pick a yarn that I wanted to use with this pattern, so I am going to keep keep that idea. So the yarn I'm going to use is this lovely. It looks a little brighter on my camera. It's more of a darker maroon type of color. It looks almost looks more red on the camera, but it's a pretty color nonetheless. And it is Scrumptious Lace by Fiber Spates. So there you go. And this is the Cherry colorway. So this is the yarn that I'm going to be using to knit the Elizabeth shawl, which has been in my queue for almost 4 years. So that is what I will be casting on January 1st. So make sure that you wait until January 1st to cast on for this knit along. By the way, my son is not at preschool today since it is a holiday week. So in the background he is playing, and I think he's actually playing Star Wars. Anyway, so that is what I plan to knit. And because I am knitting something with lace weight yarn, one of the prizes that I'm going to give out for the knit along is this lace. It is merino lace, so a really lovely merino wool. It has 1,375 yards of lace. So if you win this lace yarn, you could make quite a lovely shawl out of that. So it's in this really pretty foresty green color. So that is one of the prizes that the Q1 2017 knit along will have. So I hope that you get inspired to work on a pattern that you've been eyeing for a long time, or if you haven't had that long to have eyed some shawl patterns, that you find a pattern that's been published for a while. And you have lots of fun with the new quarterly knit along. And again, don't forget to post your finished objects for the Q4 knit along if you have not done so already. So I've gotten a lot of projects finished since the previous episode, mostly because they were Christmas gifts and I had to have them finished for Christmas. And the unfortunate thing is that means I don't have the actual finished objects to show you. So what I did for, I believe it was 2 of the finished objects, when I finished them, I know for sure it was the hitchhiker and I think one of the doll cardigans. I did record a quick video showing those off. Unfortunately, I forgot to do the same thing on the other projects that I finished. So I only have pictures to show you on those, and so I will tell you about them, and then I will have links in the show notes so that way you can hopefully see the pictures a little bit more clearly than the glare off my iPad. But I'm going to go ahead and insert the video here of the 2 objects that I did previously take a video of before I gifted them, and then I'll come back and talk about the rest. I'm recording this segment a little bit earlier than the rest of the episode because I have 2 FOs that I need to wrap and give as gifts, and so I wouldn't be able to show them to you if I didn't record this early. So the first one is a little doll cardigan. I think I showed you guys little doll dresses that I made. So this is one of the doll cardigans. It is super cute, and then I had these buttons, little pink hearts, in my stash. I needed 3 and that's how many I had, so that worked out perfectly. I actually had several button options, and I posted a picture on Instagram with the button options and had people vote, or just tell me which one they liked best, and this one was the most popular option, although I did have some buttons that had gingham on them that also seemed to be pretty popular, and I will be using those for another project. But anyway, so there's a little doll cardigan. Looking forward to giving that to my niece. And then the other thing I finished is my hitchhiker. Yay! So there's the edge. It's very long, so kind of show you, it goes on and on and on, so that's good. I was kind of worried that it wouldn't be quite long enough when I was working on it, but it definitely is. So it is kind of more of a scarf because it is more of a narrow type of shawl, but I really like how it came out. And this is going to my mother-in-law. I've mentioned this before, but the yarn is Undead yarn in her special colorway for 2016 for her podcast anniversary. I think that's the right information. I hope that's right. But it was a special colorway called Wild Rumpus. So I'm really glad that I was able to get some of that and to use it for this project. I really just like all the pops of color against kind of the gray background. And I think my mother-in-law will like it a lot. So really excited to have gotten this off the needles, blocked, ends woven in, ready for me to go wrap it up and put it under the Christmas tree. So again, maybe you can see kind of how long it is and then the little points. To be a true hitchhiker, it's supposed to have 42 points. Mine only has 39. I knew that I didn't have quite enough yarn because I had one skein, but that's okay. I'm glad that it turned out, and I'm really happy to go wrap it up. So I knit that doll cardigan 3 times, and the second time I knit the shrug version. So here it is. It is the same gray yarn that I used for the longer doll cardigan, and this time I used, it was hard to see in the picture, but I used some yellow gingham buttons, and I really liked how that came out. The yellow against the gray really set it off nicely. So that was that doll cardigan. Then I finished another one of those doll dresses I had knit to before. And so I did this one, and what I did on this one is I used, and I actually have some of the yarn left, I used this yarn as the main body of the dress, and then down on the border, the very bottom, I used the brown. And this is the yarn, it's Plymouth Select DK Merino Superwash. I was pretty sure when I bought the yarn that I would have enough with one skein to knit the dress and cardigan, but I went ahead and picked up an extra skein just in case, because I didn't want it to be, Christmas Eve and be working on this project, which, by the way, I was working on Christmas Eve, and run out of yarn. So I was correct, and I did have enough, but so I have these 2 skeins left over to do something else with. This yarn is actually kind of twisted, not very tightly, and so it untwists as you're knitting really easily. Okay, it's not going to focus on that. So it untwists really easily, and it can become really splitty. And in the cardigan and dress, there are some, maybe both, definitely one of them. Some of the increases are the make one increase, and when I put that on my needle and then tried to knit, especially when I was knitting through the back of it, it was really splitty then, and it was not quite as much fun to knit with. But it feels really nice in the finished object, and I really liked the colors, and I really liked how the dress turned out. So again, the dress was the blue turquoise color, and then the bottom of it was the brown, and so then I did the cardigan all in brown. And then I had these really pretty buttons in my stash that just perfectly matched the blue yarn of the dress. And the buttons really aren't going to show as well on this picture. But if you look at my project page, the buttons do show off at least a little bit in the picture. And then if you look at, I took a picture of the cardigan and dress. Oh no, I touched it and the picture went away. Touch the screen. Okay, don't touch the screen. There we go. So there's the cardigan and the dress together, and so you can see the buttons really worked really nicely with the blue color on the dress. So I'm very happy with how that project turned out. And kind of a little sad to give it away. I almost wanted to buy a doll and dress her up in these outfits. Anyway, I didn't. I gave it away. My nieces liked them, so that was good. And then the final project that I finished was my project piece cowl. And I know I mentioned this last time. The project piece, I knit one pattern repeat, so four rounds each day. Started off my morning doing that, and it was a really, really nice start to each day. I loved following the pattern and kind of thinking about piece, thinking about starting off my day really well. I used some, I still have leftovers of the yarn, so I don't have the project. I gave the cowl to my sister-in-law. So this is Julie Spins yarn that had been in my stash for quite some time, so I'm glad that I was able to use that yarn. And then get the picture, and then the cowl itself turned out really nicely. There you go. So really pretty cowl. I really liked the stitch pattern. The yarn and the stitch pattern worked really nicely together, and kind of a little sad that the project is over. I'm not sad about giving away the cowl. I think that my sister-in-law really liked it, and I'm very happy that that I was able to give it to her. I'm more sad that the process of knitting that cowl is over, but I am still trying to keep up with that morning ritual. It just seems, for some reason, a little bit harder to do on a different project. I think it was just something about the idea behind that project that really helped me want to, first thing in the morning, start knitting it without checking my email or doing anything else on my phone. Just sitting down in the quiet of the early morning and knitting. So need to try my best to keep that idea going. But anyway, so that is what I have finished, and I actually don't have a what I'm knitting section, because what I'm knitting right now is the secret project for my book. And so I really can't show you, and that's really because I went all the way up to the day after Christmas is when we met with my husband's side of the family and gave out the last gifts. And so I was kind of knitting right up to that point. And since then, I have only been working on the book project. So no what I'm knitting section this time, but I am definitely working on things that I will get to show you next time. Just two quick things for what I'm designing. I have test knitters working on the shawl pattern. So if you remember, it's that green, and then I finished it off with a purple edging. That shawl, test knitters are working on that. They have about 2 more weeks to finish the test knit. One of the test knitters has already finished. Another one, if she hasn't yet finished, she's very close to finishing. So that's definitely well underway. I need to sit down and write out the story behind the name of the pattern. I still haven't done that yet, so that needs to be done. And then I need to, once the test knitters are all finished, I need to take their feedback. I check their yarn usage and whatnot, see if there are any adjustments that need to be made in the pattern. Then I will send it off to the graphic designer, and as soon as she is done with it, then I will be able to release it. So the test knit ends, I think it's January 12th, somewhere around there. So probably it will be kind of in the later part of January before that pattern is released. So excited to hopefully get that pattern out in the world very soon. It is one that I'd kind of been working on for a really long time. And then other than that, I am now turned my focus really completely to the book project, because that is also something I've been working on for a very long time, and I really want to push and move forward with that. So that is the main thing I'm working on, and I think probably mid-February will be a good time to actually tell you guys what the theme of the book is and the types of projects that will be found in it. So I guess maybe 2 or 3 more podcast episodes from now, I will give you more specific details about the book. And that's what I'm designing. I think I've mentioned on the podcast that I had been working on a big wholesale order, and that has been finished and shipped off to Shelly of Threads and You. So I want to show you her business card there. So Threads and You. And so that is in her hands now. Camelot, so the fingering weight, merino, cashmere nylon, and Merlin, the self-striping. So she does not have a storefront. She travels to shows throughout the United States. So that is nice, because then if you are in different areas of the United States, that gives you an opportunity to perhaps see Roundtable Yarns. And the first show that she has of 2017 is Vogue Knitting Live in New York City. So if you are anywhere near there and go to that show, make sure you stop by the Threads and You booth, and you will find some Roundtable Yarns. And then if you check out her website, she has her show. She should have her show schedule for the first part of 2017, and so you can see where else she is traveling. So very happy to have that order in her hands. It was a really large order because she has several shows there at the beginning of the year. And then I am currently working on a wholesale order for a new wholesale client. Very happy to have a new client. This is a shop called Needle Points West. There we go. And this is in Los Angeles. And I will link to the shop in the show notes so that you can get information about that. But Needle Points West in Los Angeles. And that is Camelot. So again, fingering weight, merino, cashmere, nylon. I have finished dyeing all of that yarn. I just still need to reskein and label and get that ready to be sent out to that shop. So that is exciting. One of my goals for 2017 is to get another 2 to 3 more wholesale clients. So especially if you're not in the Dallas area, if you would like your yarn shop to carry Roundtable Yarns, make sure you put them in touch with me to get wholesale information, because I would love to get the yarn out to other shops. And then the other big thing I'm working on is the Yarn Club. So will be sending out the final shipment for the Poisoned Apple Yarn Club. That is almost all ready to go. I just have to put all of the packages together, basically. And the shipments have been going out on the 1st of each month. But when I was listing out the shipping dates for the Yarn Club, I thought, well, January 1st is New Year's Day, so that's a postal holiday. So I'm going to be smart and put that I'm shipping that out on January 2nd. I did not check a calendar before I did that to find out that the 1st is a Sunday and the 2nd, the Monday, is actually the postal holiday. So instead of waiting until January 3rd to ship out the package, since I have it ready, I am going to go ahead and ship that out on December 31st. So kind of a day early, but because of the postal holiday, it won't really reach anyone early. It'll still get to everyone about the same time as it would if I had actually shipped it on January 2nd, had January 2nd actually been a shipping date. So I guess that Saturday I will be taking those to the post office and dropping them off, and that will be the final shipment of that yarn club. So looking ahead to the Tristan and Isolde Yarn Club, which I told you guys about in the last podcast episode. So if you missed that, make sure you watch episode 16 to get more information. Right now the plan is to open signups for that club on January 16th and have the signups run for about 2 weeks. So close basically January 31st, and then have the first shipment go out mid-February. I already know for sure the base and colorway that are going out on the first shipment. I'm still kind of playing around with color options and trying to figure out which color works best on which base, which will help me decide which base will go out which month. And so I'm still finalizing those types of things. I'm going to be placing an order with my yarn supplier very soon, so that way I can get some of those bases in my hands, so I can actually play with the colors, because they different bases take colors differently, so I want to make sure that the color looks good on that base before I say, yes, for sure, this is the color that's going to go out. So I will be getting all of that finalized. And so that's kind of the next big project that I'm working on. And then I really need to start dyeing for DFW Fiber Fest. That is the first part of April. And you know what? April is going to be here before I know it. And so I definitely need to really be working on building up my inventory for that, especially the self-striping yarn, since that takes a lot longer. I have some good news. I just found out yesterday that I have been accepted again to the Houston Fiber Fest. So that is in June. So I will be heading back down to Houston. Very happy about that. And yeah, so lots of things going on there. And then the final What I'm Dyeing news is that the Poisoned Apple Yarn Club colorways, the Yarn Club, basically how I'm doing it is the Yarn Club colors. I'm sorry if you hear my son in the background. He is making a lot of noise right now. The colorways the Yarn Club members get as an exclusive for 3 months. And then after 3 months after shipment, if I want to add it to the lineup, like, you know, if they really liked the colorway, if I really liked the colorway, then 3 months after it has been shipped to the Yarn Club, then I can choose to add it to the regular colorways. And so the very first of the Poisoned Apple Yarn Club colorways that went out on October 1st. So that means January 1st, the 3-month period of exclusivity is up, and it is a color that I really liked, and so I want to add it to the lineup. So basically next week it will start being available, and I have dyed it on all of my bases because sometimes, like I said, colors look a little bit different on different bases, so I wanted to see how it looked across all of the bases. Plus, when I release that colorway, I want to have it available for you guys to buy it, if you so choose. So I have a picture of it on Camelot, which is what the Yarn Club members got. And I'm glad that I dyed it on the other bases, because on the Camelot, because it has that cashmere in it, the cashmere, it not only makes the yarn itself soft, it also kind of softens the colors sometimes, and that indeed seems to be the case. Because I noticed on the other bases, which are mostly merino, the color seems a little bit darker. So I'm going to show you the picture first. So this is the color on Camelot. So the name of the colorway is Shame and Slander. And then I have an example of it dyed, not reskeined, but dyed on Tristan. And so you can see it does have lighter sections as well as some darker sections of this colorway. So this is Tristan, the sport weight base. And this is why I reskein yarn, because when it comes out of the dye pot, it usually it just is a little bit messy. And I like to make it look a lot nicer. Anyway, so that colorway, Shame and Slander, will be added to the shop after January 1st, that period of exclusivity, and it will be available on all of my bases. So while I have this in my hands, this is actually the little postcard that I send out to the Yarn Club in each shipment. So the front side is a picture of the colorway and then the name of that color. This one was part 1 of 4. So for Tristan and Isolde, it'll say part whatever of 9, since it's a 9-month one. And then I have the Poisoned Apple Yarn Club. So Tristan and Isolde will say Tristan and Isolde Yarn Club. And then on the back of the postcard, I have the story that goes with that shipment. And then usually it's a to be continued. So it says, what happens next? Does X eat the poisoned apple? Find out next month when the story continues. So that's the little story. And so each month in the shipment, you get the little postcard that has that month's colorway on the front and that month's story on the back. So I thought I would also share that with you since I had that out. And yeah, it's a lot of information, a lot that is going on with Roundtable Yarns. Definitely 2016 was a good year for growth for Roundtable Yarns. Still have a lot more growth that I would like to see happen. So I'm hopeful that 2017 will help with that. And thank you guys who have supported Roundtable Yarns this year. It really, really means a lot to me. And I wouldn't be able to continue without you. So thank you very, very much for supporting my yarn company. What I'm stashing, I have one braid of fiber. This is from the Elemental Fiberworks Visions of Fiber Club. So this is the December colorway, which is Jupiter. I especially wanted to mention this if you're watching this before December 31st, 2016, the Fiber Club is now currently open for the next quarter. So if you have really liked the fiber that I've been showing off, that I've been receiving from this club, make sure, again, if it's before December 31st, that you jump right over to the Elemental Fiberworks website, which I will link in the show notes, and sign up for the Fiber Club. I need to make sure I remember to sign up for the next 3 months. So this one, the poster behind the inspiration is Jupiter. And I think this is one of the ones that I was most excited about getting because these are my colors. I think this quarter, all 3 shipments have been my colors, so I've been really excited. So this is the gorgeous fiber that was based on that postcard. And the fiber, its content is alpaca and silk. So I really wish you could feel this. This is amazingly soft, and I am really looking forward to spinning this. I think this is probably, I mean, the one last time with that was pretty much all blues was really pretty, but I think so far this is probably my favorite of the shipments that I've gotten. So again, Elemental Fiberworks, based upon these postcards from NASA, gorgeous postcards. So you get the postcard each month, and then gorgeous, gorgeous fiber. And that's exciting to add that to my stash. And then rather appropriately, since I'm getting fiber, I also have the latest issue of Ply magazine that arrived in the mail. And this issue, each issue has a theme. This issue is plying. So there are a lot of really great articles in here. Here's in this issue. So there's that. And that. And that. I mentioned before that I'm the copy editor for Ply magazine, so I read all the articles before I got the publication, but it's always really nice to hold the physical copy in my hand. I really liked Michelle Boyd's Plying by Numbers article. She looked into kind of some of the ideas that you should ply when you spin your singles. You know, how much twist should you add if you want a certain amount of twist in your final plied yarn. So she did some experimentation there. So I really liked that. And then there was this whole process, kind of a flock to fashion series of articles that took some fiber that actually came directly from an animal, a sheep, who's actually, the sheep's name was Luke. Anyway, so the fiber actually came from a sheep, and then it was dyed, and then it went through a spinning process, and then was designed and turned into a really gorgeous crocheted cardigan, which I can't remember for sure, but I think maybe the first crochet pattern that Ply has published. So that, I do want to show you a picture of the cardigan. Let's see. Here's the kind of full picture. And then here's a little detail. It's the big full page picture, but here's a detail picture of the cardigan. Really makes me wish that I crocheted, because I think that would be really gorgeous to work on. And then back here, there's Luke. So sheep that the fiber and therefore the yarn came from. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And I think my Luke heard his name because he's in here. Say hi. Here, don't sit on that. There we go. Say hi.
Hi.
Okay, go back and play.
Look, I want to look at this.
Okay, he apparently wants to look at Ply Magazine. Be careful with it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, great. Maybe he'll want to spin. Anyway, so Ply Magazine. We are working on the next issue. Actually, I've already copy edited the articles for the very next issue, which is the down issue, which is really exciting. And I'm currently starting to work on the following issue, which is the bobbin-led issue. That's the theme. So if you're a spinner and you do not already subscribe to Ply Magazine, definitely recommend that you do. Really, really love the magazine. So continuing on with the spinning in the What I'm Stashing, I got a few books for Christmas, and I thought I would share some of those. The most related to fiber arts is Jillian Moreno's book, Yarnitecture. So this is a book that I'm really excited to dig into. I think that Jillian is an amazing teacher, and I know that she put a lot of work into this book. And JC actually wrote the intro to the book, and I'm really, really loving looking at it so far. Need to spend some more time reading it, and then eventually more time at my wheel. Anyway, and then kind of related to fiber arts is this book, Women's Work, the Early Years, and so the subtitle is Women, Cloth, and Society in Early Times. So basically it says 20,000 years ago, women were making and wearing the first clothing created from spun fibers. In fact, right up to the Industrial Revolution, the fiber arts were an enormous economic force, belonging primarily to women. So this is a history of that, and is based on archaeological methods that the author used. So I thought that sounded really fascinating, and it was on my wish list, so really happy that I got that for Christmas. Looking forward to reading that. And then completely unrelated to fiber arts, but something that is geeky, so I want to share it. I got Doctor Who Time Lord Fairy Tales, and I haven't had a chance to start reading this one yet, but I looked at the table of contents, and since it says Time Lord Fairy Tales, I really thought that they would just be, based on fairy tales. But then I saw the title of the very last one, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. A Time Lord version of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Wow. I cannot wait to read that one. So even though it's the last story in the book, I may have to read that one first, because that's really exciting. My favorite medieval story, Doctor Whoified, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I haven't really added any yarn to my stash, but I did add some fiber and added a few books and other resources. So that's really exciting. One more little Christmas present that my husband got me that I wanted to show off. Started to kind of collect those pop figures, and I know other people leave them in their boxes. I don't. I like to take mine out of the box, and so my husband got me Claire and Jamie from Outlander. So I got to add these to my my pop figure collection. Really happy about that. Anyway, that is about it for this episode. Hopefully 2017 goes a lot better than 2016 has done overall. And I hope you have a wonderful, happy new year, and I will see you guys in 2017. Thanks for watching, and happy knitting!